But then this is a quick road test video, and this is for a Honda CR-V 2.2 ES diesel. This particular car is registered C9DLL, and that private plate actually comes with the car. 2007 vehicle with currently 76,906 miles. Get there in the end. The reason we do these videos on all of our cars is very simple indeed. We basically just want to make sure that anyone that's looking at our cars in an advert online actually get to see that very car in operation. The reason we feel it's important is basically that to our own cost, unfortunately, we've travelled many hours to go and see cars, to buy them, to only to get there to find out they've got a fundamental issue which just shows up whilst you're driving the car. So, you know, pictures and descriptions are fine, but it's actually when you put your bum on the seat, you get to find out, you know, the true worth of a car. So that's why we do it, so we can give feedback if there's anything amiss with the vehicle prior to coming to us. The road test is also done on part of the road test route any prospective buyer would go on, and the reason for that is that we hope it then be representative of what you'd feel yourself should you be offered a test drive in the car. So coming to the car itself, this car, as you'll know from the advert, sorry, I've got a bad foot, has come in as a part exchange to us. The chap bought a much later 2015 Honda CR-V, so clearly likes his CR-Vs. And it's easy to see why. It's a great generation of vehicle. It really, really is. Engine starts is also we've done an engine oil and filter service on the vehicle as well, by the way, and it'll be going for an independent MOT hopefully today, if not tomorrow. Anyway, coming back to the engine, starts absolutely instantly, settles to completely smooth, even idle. There are no warning lights on the dashboard at all whilst the engine's running, and the temperature gauge, and it's been running for some time now, is running at a third, which is exactly where it's meant to be on a Honda car. The engines are brilliant. It's a lovely generation engine, not only because it means it's a generation of engine that doesn't use a DPF filter, which, as we know, can cause issues for all sorts of reasons. But also, it's a cam chain driven engine. It's wonderfully smooth and quiet in operation. The only time you're really aware it's actually a diesel is at probably first and second gear. Beyond that, it's just a lovely smooth unit to use day in, day out. And of course, being a diesel, very good on fuel, especially when combined with the 6-speed gearbox. In operation, it sounds exactly as it would have done when it was new. It's just got a lovely sweet note to it, very tractable, lovely to rev through, an absolute pleasure to use. Engine then feeds through clutch and into gearbox. Clutch on the car, absolutely perfect. Bite point's exactly where you'd want it to be, and it's lovely and smooth in operation. Gearbox is superb, mounted up nice and high up here. The gear changes are short and throw, snappy in action, wonderfully precise. This is gear change that you'd expect on a sporty car, not on a SUV, but Honda always do their gearboxes absolutely brilliantly, and this one's no different, and I can feel absolutely no wear in it in terms of the linkage or the synchro mesh whilst using it. Coming to the steering of the vehicle, lovely generation of power steering, because it's the true power steering where it's hydraulic, which means it's got very natural weight and width to it. It makes the car feel lovely and solid on the road, very confidence inspiring, regardless of what speed you're travelling at. And again, it just feels incredibly tight, no wear in it that I can feel through the steering wheel. The whole car just feels really at one. It's just very nicely done. I drove it back on the motorway yesterday. There was no vibrations at all. Track's pretty much straight. So obviously driven it at all speeds. The suspension of the vehicle, what I'm looking for on these road tests, especially on sort of slightly older cars, even with a relatively low mileage like this one, is just when it hits the bump, there shouldn't be any kind of sort of knocking or chattering coming back through the chassis of the vehicle, and there is nothing at all. It's absolutely... I'm just going to park for this lorry, sorry. exactly as it should be, but what it also gives you is a very, very comfortable ride. It's beautifully damped, but what it also manages to do is when you're going through the corners, the car flows really nicely, you know, without pretending it's a sports car, because it isn't. But what you get is very little kind of body motion, and that's really important, particularly for sort of rear seat passengers who might have their head in a sort of a phone or a book or something, and may not be sort of anticipating what's coming ahead. Honda obviously know this market so well, because obviously it's a, you know, the CR-V is the best-selling SUV in the world, and it's really easy to see why. It's a wonderful package in every single aspect of the car. Just going to give the brakes a bit of a shove. Yeah, it's a nice solid brake pedal on the car. Again, I did hit the brakes a few times yesterday on the way back. It was a good sort of 40 miles or so I drove, and brakes are absolutely spot on. And what I'm looking for in particular is kind of any kind of juddering or pulsing coming back to the brake pedal, of which it exhibits nothing at all. Coming inside the car, it's, first things first, just a beautifully built car. No squeaks, no rattles for a 13-year-old vehicle. This is real build quality. Everything works perfectly in the car. The air conditioning is absolutely ice cold, got it on currently at the moment. You've got a dual zone system, so you have different temperatures side to side as well. But every switch has got a lovely quality of actuation that Honda do really, really well. It means that the switch gear will, you know, last hundreds of thousands of miles with just normal use. Dashboard directly in front, lovely simple dials, big, bold, easy to read, very nicely done actually. Steering wheel feels pretty much as new in hand actually. It's, again, lasted wonderfully, wonderfully well. These are four-wheel drive vehicles, albeit the first thing you'll notice is there are no buttons or anything to activate or deactivate it, because again, basically Honda worked out immediately that the vast majority of people's driving would be as I am doing today, in perfectly good conditions and on perfectly good roads. If you've got permanent four-wheel drive wearing away, the first thing you're doing is using up more fuel. You know, so you put more mechanical stress through the vehicle, and you know, you chew up your tyres more quickly. What this does is incredibly simple. Should you start to lose grip on the front wheels, because it runs in front wheel drive, it immediately kicks in the rears to give you four-wheel drive. It's seamless in the way it does it. The transition in and out you can hardly detect. It's just a brilliant, brilliant system. And its simplicity, by the way, gives it its reliability, because we've been selling Hondas using this four-wheel drive system for many, many years, and for decades, and never so much as put a spanner on one of them. So it's very, very good indeed. As I said at the start of the video, the point of it, brief as it may be, is literally just to show the car in operation, but it drives absolutely beautifully. It really does, and you can see why these are worth more than competitive makes of a similar age, because they're incredibly tough, reliable vehicles. Not to say they don't go wrong, because all cars go wrong at some point. It's just the frequency at which cars go wrong at this age, and this is where Honda in particular, you know, one of the most reliable manufacturer cars for cars between sort of 5 and 20 years old. But it's a lovely vehicle. As I said, can find nothing with it to report back. It drives absolutely beautifully.